you there. Luckily, I say thank you to you again, so we'll get that recorded for you. But this is recorded so folks can see it later on for folks who weren't able to make it tonight. Also, we're going to do a frequently asked question document that will include to our webpage. So we have some questions that were forwarded to us already. If you have questions, we will add that to our list. So we have that information, and we'll include that in with the rest of the information we've been sharing off of our website. That way you can keep track of that information, and you're always free to send in more information or more questions, and we'll answer those as best we can. Very soon, this slide deck will also be available on the website, so you can come back and look at it at a later date. Just one note for everyone's for student privacy and for privacy of your own situation. That's just please refrain from about specific questions about individual students and specific issues. You may have a situation you're handling at home or with your home, and feel free to kind of give us the generics on that. But if you have something that's really specific, just for your own privacy and for your students' privacy, please you can call us tomorrow or send me an email, and so we can talk about your really specific situation. Just to be mindful of that. Otherwise, we will certainly answer every question that we can here this evening. So for the agenda, where are we now? Talk about instruction and training for most of it, and then we'll just
I can't hear anything.
With the meals at the daycare to start. We'll talk about remote learning a little bit there, and talk about some of those guidelines that have been in place. Where are we with grading in the end of the school year? What about next year? And what about for our older students, about graduation and prom? And I just want to give a little bit of a heads up on the budget and where budget things are going, just so you have an understanding of where that information is. And then, of course, we'll get to your questions that are there. So without much further ado, so we can get to your questions first, we'll go ahead and get rolling. Where are we now? So we are closed until May 15th. That is by the governor proclamation. Will remain that in effect until he tells us otherwise. All programs remain in effect, so all of our remote learning, all the instruction will continue. Our feeding program will continue with the meals, as well as the daycare opportunity we have open for our essential workers. You may have heard in the news recently that there's some talk about reopening, and the governor has a plan that's been put into place, or starting to talk about putting into place. We have nothing official yet. So if you have something that, so if you hear things in the news, we're probably going to hear a lot in the news from here for a while. Once we get the official word and we know where things are going, we will let you know, just as we've kept you updated on everything else. But at this point, school closure is until the 15th. We hear that it'll be Friday before we hear anything about any extension of that closure or if we're expected to reopen. Along with the governor talking about the regular school year, we expect some conversations about summer school as well. We don't know what that is going to mean from the governor, but again, as we get that information, we will certainly forward it to you. As I mentioned before about the budget piece is looming, but it's not positive. And I will share just a really general overview on that work from there. So let's talk about instruction a little bit. Remote learning is still in full force and is still the foundation of what we're doing. And we are doing this in all sorts of ways. We're doing this through video classes on a variety of different platforms. We have teachers using Google Classrooms in combination with video classes, and we have some good old-fashioned paper packets that go back and forth between school and home through a variety of means. So we really have quite the differentiation of our instructional methodologies that we're using, all in a manner to try to get the information to you so the students can do that work and get it back and at least have access to the learning while we are separated from each other. Your grading for students is still going to look the same as it does for the school year. So for elementary students, you may still see nice jobs and stickers and stamps if you get pictures taken and sent to you. You may see, the letter grades. At the high school, for the most part, they're still using number grades. So those grading procedures that are still in place now are going to stay there, at least so you have a consistency in feedback of student work and how kids are doing. If we do have paperwork sent in to us, we are not returning that paperwork back. Part of that's logistics and part of that's safety that's there, but our principals are holding on to that work. So when folks want it, because there's some project work that's also included, we're holding on to those things. So when we get to a time where we can share that information back to you, so your student can see it and you can see it, that it's available when that time comes. But if you need help at any time, and this will be kind of the running theme of the night, that if you need help, please tell your teacher. Please let your teacher know. The engagement with the classroom teacher is vitally important for your student success. If you're having challenges with connectivity, if you're having problems with help motivating the student to do the work, if the workload is too much, please just continue to reach out to the classroom teacher and let those folks know. That is where we make most of our connections, and so we can get the information that we need so we can connect back to you, and in order to make sure everyone has access and everything works. So please do let your teacher know. The grading information that is here, we have sent this information out and it is also posted. Third quarter grades were mainly based on the previous work before the closure. And the idea in the third quarter is that students weren't going to be adversely hurt because of the closure happening during that marking period. To that end, if students weren't being successful through that marking period, they have the opportunity to fish up any assignments or work that was missing. To do that, the opportunity still continues, and I would encourage any family who has a student who has work to make up to please do so and do that for reasons that I'll talk about here in a couple of bit, particularly for our older students. We continue to adjust expectations and will continue to do so for student work. But again, please communicate any difficulties we have. When we know, teachers will do whatever they can to help students be successful during this remote learning time. Because we don't want the separation and the remote learning piece to impact your child's progress negatively. So please, again, make sure you're in contact with the teacher. We're also paying attention to equitable access. Where we currently are is very difficult for internet connectivity, and we know this, which is why we have that variety of methods going between paper and Google Classroom and to the video chatting to there. We also know folks have some limits to what devices they may have to, with some families relying only on cell phones or a limited number of devices. We have devices available. We have been keeping them aside in the event for families who get into those needs, that we make them available to those families. So if you're having an access issue, please reach out to your teacher. So let us know, and we will do what we can do to help get you back on board with access, at least with devices. The challenge still remains the connectivity. I was working with a couple other school districts to try some other options, but our geography just makes connectivity really difficult in any consistent manner. That's there. I know I've seen some folks around at the library. I've seen some folks parked out front of the school for access for the Wi-Fi here and the Wi-Fi at the library to there. And I know there's other folks doing other means, but if we get stuck to a spot where we just can't get to connectivity, we'll easily convert things to paper, and we can use either our feeding distribution or the good old-fashioned U.S. mail to get information back and forth, so your student has access to the learning and the opportunity to be successful during this time. For our older students in the region, those who take the Regents exam, so that would be students grades 9 through 12. Pretty much the Regents exams, they are exempt from Regents exams this year through to August. However, they are only exempt if they pass the course this year. So if you have a student who's currently enrolled in a Regents course, for example, it'd be like Algebra 1 for 9th grade in math. If they pass the course, they will earn the Regents credit for that, and that will count toward their diploma, their assessment requirements for their high school diploma. If if a student isn't successful during the marking period and goes to summer school, that the students who are successful through summer school will also have that exemption in place. So this goes back to, please make sure you're engaging with your teacher if you're having challenges with students who aren't engaging, because right now they have an opportunity to get through a hurdle of the Regents exam, which different exams are different hurdles for different kids. So if we want to be able to skip this hurdle, they need to be successful in the classroom during the class year. So it's very important that we make sure those students are doing the work because we want them to be successful. Students retaking the exam due to previous failures are also exempt if they passed the course previously. So if your student took Global 10 last year, passed the course, was not successful with the exam, took it in August, wasn't successful, took it in January, wasn't successful. In June, if they passed last year for the course, they will get credit for that exam now because they don't have the opportunity to take it. So guidance, if you have questions on that, the guidance office will be able to help you. Diploma designations are following the similar guidance, just a little different, couple differences. So if we had a student who was looking for their advanced designation but needed that chemistry exam in order to get it because they needed that one more science, that student, as long as they pass that chemistry course, they would be able to get that advanced designation. Similar information applies to students getting technical endorsements. I know we have some students this year who are looking to graduate with those endorsements, and those determinations are left to the district, again, with successful completion of the requirements without taking that end assessment. The one exception that is in here is any students heading for an honors exam. They at least have to have taken a test in order to get that honors designation. Again, any questions here, reach out to the guidance office. Mr. Zarzicki will be able to help for the understanding of what those diploma designations may be for your child. Just a quick update on some other programs. To date, we have sent out a total of 17,382 meals. That's breakfast and lunch combined. Through our cafeteria staff, some assistance with our aides and our bus for the transportation. That's been going on since the beginning. Great work by those groups. And if you still have need for meals or have problems getting those, please reach out to Ms. Carey. She will be able to help you. If you're an essential worker and have daycare needs, we have a couple different opportunities available for you. We do have, in conjunction with Cambridge and Greenwich, a site down in Cambridge that we are kind of housing ourselves. Cambridge is the site. The information is there for you to contact Kate at the district office, and that's for students who are ages 3 through 5 and 6 through 12. BOCES has similar age programs, and there are 3 different locations. So if you live here but work out in Glens Falls or Saratoga in that direction and need child care out that way, that is, you should have access to that as well. The link here on the page, which will be on the website later, you can reach out to them and make arrangements for your child care. If you have an infant, the 0 to 2, please contact the office. Let me know. We do have a licensed child care provider who is open and willing to taking on essential worker children because of the COVID crisis. So that is what we're doing for meals, and that's where we are with the daycare situation. So for remote learning, you're not alone. I'll just say again, you're not alone. We're here to help you. Let us help you if you need help, please. Your teacher is your first resource and your best resource, and then the teacher will be able to get a hold of the administration to do any other things we may need to do to kind of make the magic happen if the teacher isn't able to do that on their own. So for some basic guidelines for work and for work expectations, for those K-2 students, it says no more than 2.5 hours each for math and ELA combined, with an additional hour for everything else. So it's about 3.5 hours a week. When you get the work coming in from school, it can be daunting, because you may be getting a week's worth of work at a time, and that's not meant to be done in a single day. You got to remember, sometimes the worksheets you get or the projects you get from school sometimes will last a week. It's not necessarily meant to be done in one session. In addition, because of our situation, your child may only be able to handle so much in a given day. So these are just set guidelines. If you have a good day, and you can get more time than that, they are able to work more than that, that is fantastic. You go ahead and go with that. If there's days though, however, they aren't doing that well, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to, you know, step back and let me get a brain break. You know, if it will stop raining for us, maybe get outside and warm up a little so they can run around to there. But for the guidelines and pieces, don't feel like you're in this crunch of, we get all this information, we have to have it all done, we have to have it back next week, because it may not be all meant for that way to there. Again, if there's challenges, reach out to your teacher, let your teacher know. Your teacher will work with you. But the communication between home and school is always important, but it's really important now because we don't share the kids. They're all yours for the time. So you need to make sure you can communicate to us what we need to know so we can help you. For students in grades 3 through 6, it's a little bit longer of work associated, but the same thing applies. If they're having a good week or having a good day and can get more of that work done and it goes over that time, that's fine. If there's times where they aren't, that's okay too. Adjust with your child for the amount of work they can do or can't do. And then monitor, you know, how their behaviors are going, because there's still going to be days where they just don't want to do that math homework, or they don't want to do the vocabulary, just like they didn't want to do that homework. I think part of some students see this work we send home is homework, because that's what they associate doing work at home with, and this is different. So again, you get students who feel pressured, give them some time, give them some space, and monitor your child for the work that they're doing. You need help, reach out to your teacher. We will do whatever we can to help you out. For the high school, it works a little different here by course. 1 to 2 weeks, well, actually 1 to 2 hours a week for your core courses for 7 and 8, and then an hour for each additional subject. And then for your high school, 1 to 3 hours per course per week. Again, here, this may fluctuate a little bit. The piece that I will, just as an example, that I'll share with you is like it's AP exams are coming. So for AP students, they may be spending more than 3 hours a week on their AP exams, getting ready for their AP exams for this week and the week after, I believe. So it's just a guideline to follow. They're structured to give you some flexibility in creating the daily schedules that work best for you and for your child. But again, if you need help, please do not hesitate to reach out to your teacher to know. So I am going to stop sharing this for a second because I want to talk a little bit about this piece for social emotional learning. It's a resource that is off our webpage. Let me see if I'm going to see if it let me share. Bear with me here because I am a little shaky on the sharing of pieces. Susan Glowski, I can see you. So if you see my web screen up, can you just shake your head for me? Great. Thank you very much. That's there. So this is the main web page we have in place. All our main communication for our COVID communication is here. It goes down along the bulletin board pieces. Some great announcements coming up for Virtual Spirit Week for the high school. And our top 10 was just announced, so congratulations to those students and to the parents who are on with those students. Good for that. Good, that's great work. But for the COVID information, it also lives in 2 different places. And here for the individual community services related, on that link, it takes a double click to get there. There's a whole list of different information available to you. In the Salem Central School link, here is all bunch of information about social emotional learning. It talks about how to talk to a parent guide for COVID-19. Really a lot of resources for the adults, for you to be able to work with your child. And then some things that you can share with your child as well. For older students, could certainly go through this information about, for our types of self-care to be able to share. So please use this as a resource that's available. We also have, BOCES has a site up, and this is a link off of our page, and they have different resources available for folks, available for you to be able to use. So, and there's also other links that are here, and I'll let you go ahead and look through these. So it's, please take advantage of this. The Office of Mental Health, I know sometimes does some webinars. We try to send those out when they pop up on occasion. Of course, the information from Washington County that is there. Okay, link pages aren't showing up, just gray boxes. Okay, well that doesn't help much, does it? So let's do this. Is that better, Julie? Okay, Mr. Gillespie, is that better? Shake your head if you can see a regular screen. No?
We're still just seeing, Dr. Glover, the gray boxes. I'm wondering,
Okay.
as you went out last time, maybe go directly to the web page. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted you to know that.
Nope, you're good. I'll do it this way. I will do it this way. See, we're all still learning how to get all these things to work right. Is that better? Okay, so there's the main pieces. Back really to that main page will get you the main information that you need to be able to see some things. But please use this as a resource. If you need help beyond that, reach out to the school. We will be more than happy to help you in any regard where it comes to mental health and wellness, and be able to help reach out and get you in touch with whatever services you may need to do. Again, we are here to help you, so please let us help you. But let us know and we will do what we can. Okay, Ms. Abrams, we see the presentation back up again. Okay, cool, thank you. So, where are we with grading? So the fourth marking period is really where we're going to incorporate all of the learning for the remote learning into the fourth grade. The decisions are going to depend a lot on what happens with the closure length and the guidance from the state ed department. So if the governor says we're coming back in a couple of weeks, that will have some impact on what we do, because we'll have probably a limited amount of time to work with kids. If the closure lasts through the rest of the school year, that is going to look different. So it depends. That third bullet here is what we're kind of talking about and things being considered. We're talking about for fourth quarter, moving away from numeric grades. That could look like there's a lot of options thrown around. The one basic is pass, not pass, or is basically what we're looking at. The wording is going to look different, but we also want to make sure that those students who aren't being successful still have an opportunity to be able to make things up, with their engaged effort. We are also looking to reward kids who have really excelled in this time period, who have really put the work in, and their efforts have really shown. So we want to be able to have some designations for those too. So still, these are all still in conversations. It's going to look different for each grade level. So the end of year grades at the elementary level and how that works is going to look differently than it's going to look like for the high school, just by nature of the grades. We will get you this information once we have an idea of where the closure is. I can tell you there's a regional group that is working on this as kind of collectively what's happening in the region. I am part of that committee, and I know the principals have been working with their respective principal groups on these ideas and working with the teachers on what do you think. And there's been a lot of conversation really focused on the student and making sure that the student's work is being reflected properly, but also that this whole separation and crisis piece is not harming a student either because of the separation or because of the learning that they may or may not have been able to get during this time. So the end of the year is going to look different, whether we end up coming back or not. There aren't any Regents exams, so we don't have a Regents exam period that we are traditionally used to for the high school. There is a possibility of the school year being shorter. We did have school over spring break, and because of that, that's an extra 6 days of school we had, and somehow we need to work out those extra 6 days for 180 days, and we're waiting on guidance for that as well. So we don't know what that's going to look like. When we know, we will let you know. Again, we talked about being session or remote, and those end of year traditions. Moving update for 6th grade, for example. field day for the elementary folks. The big one, graduation, we'll talk about in a second. That's there. So they're going to look different. How they're going to look are part of conversations now. If you have ideas, feel free to let us know. Contact your principal, contact me, and say, hey, did you think about this, or what about these ideas? We are certainly open to them. We want to be able to honor the students and the work that they're doing and their accomplishments, particularly our seniors. But a lot of this is waiting on the direction of what the governor's office says, and then where the state education department goes. So these things are in our mind for the end of year pieces. They're all very important milestones for a student's life. It's just how we were going to do that is going to look different this year. So speaking of graduation and prom, prom is currently rescheduled to August 15th. And if that needs to change, we will let you know how that change comes. Again, that's all going to be dependent upon what Albany and the governor says. Graduation, please know that the traditional graduation is always the first choice. And the front lawn, the last Friday of the month, and the way we normally do it. Our challenge is going to be the large group gathering. So we have some thoughts onto that. We've been batting around some ideas, but a lot of it's going to be based on what we are allowed or not allowed to do by the government. So with that, we have some creative alternate celebrations that we're discussing. And we'll keep talking. If you have ideas, please feel free to get them into us. We will certainly incorporate those ideas in, but know that these types of celebrations and graduation celebrations are in our thoughts and been toward the front here recently, and coming up with something that allows the students to still have this celebration and the recognition of their accomplishment from graduating from high school. We're working on some other things too for seniors that'll be happening soon, but it's a secret and you can't tell anybody. So at this point, a couple groups working on some things. They are very neat and very cool, but they're underway, but we want them to be surprises. But if you want to help with the effort, please reach out to Ms. Adams' office, and she will be able to help you either get hooked into a group, or she'll be able to help you get hooked into a group so you can help work on the recognition efforts. So one more item here, and this is the budget. Quickly, and what you're looking at on your screen is a comparison of what we're currently going through compared to the Great Recession, compared to 9/11. This information is taken from a study done for the state on the budget and for their budget planning work. It's a consultant group out of Boston, and the state is using this information. I shared this slide because of the graphic. It gives a really good depiction of what we're going through economically now, as compared to a couple other benchmarks that most of us are going to remember. When we look at the Great Recession, we can see that it took 7 quarters, so just about a couple of years to get to the kind of the low point. When we rebounded out of that relatively quickly. Back in 9/11, it was a kind of a real smooth 5 quarters in, a year in and a year out for there. Currently, we hit bottom in 6 months. And now is the process of getting out. But please note, they're talking about almost 3 years being of time for us to get out of the current economic situation. These are just based on studies. Life is different, but if you remember the Great Recession times and the things that happened there, it was a very challenging time for school districts and took us a long time to get back to where we were kind of the pre-recession piece. There's been some conversations out of, in the budget when it was passed, that there's some look back periods that are included. So the state's going to be looking at revenue that it receives and then changing its budget accordingly. Some very large numbers have been thrown around about what the reductions could be, but not a lot of explanation. For example, the governor has said that there will be a 20% reduction in education funding, but they haven't said what that 20% might look like. If it's 20% on all of the aid, it means one thing. If it's 20% just on foundation aid, that means something different. If it's 20% on the upcoming, it's 20% on the upcoming aid disbursement we expect to get here before the school year ends, that's a very different number. So we just don't have really solid facts yet to be able to base a budget on. Budget work is going on. We are working at things and looking at options. The Board of Education is holding a meeting on the 5th for a budget workshop where this information and some additional information will be included to there. But you can if the charts are any comparison, we are in for a tough time, a little bit budget wise, but we will do what we can to protect the program and protect students and to maintain the good work that we do here to the best of our ability. So just fair warning of that, there will be a lot more information on the budget coming forward. Just wanted to let you know up front. So the questions, I'll go ahead through and answer these questions relatively quickly. And then you, at some point, I'm sure you're tired of listening to me talk. We'll open it up and we'll take questions from folks who are here. So first question that was sent in was, I was wondering if any considerations might be made for students to continue learning at home through the rest of the school year since transitioning back and forth is difficult. To that question is we're considering how to address students' education who don't return by family choice. We don't have a full answer to that yet. There's been some conversations of maybe running remotely at the same time we're running regular in session, but it is part of the conversation because we do anticipate, for whatever reasons, of some students not returning to school, if it's simply just for health and safety or for other reasons. But at this point, it's part of the conversation. It's just nothing concrete yet until we get more concrete information. The second question, how will yearbooks be handled, and is there anything in the works to replace the yearbook assembly? Right now, if we are in session, we will hold something that's similar to the yearbook assembly that's there, and things will go as normal as possible. If not, I know they're already having conversations about what the next step might look like for handing or distributing out the yearbooks, and we will certainly communicate that to everybody once we have that plan into place. Assuming the feds don't provide aid, will schools consider consolidation? At this point, school consolidation has not been a topic of conversation. It takes some time to put a school consolidation together between the studies and the votes. Usually it's a couple-year process to make that happen. However, this is a protracted event. And if it ends up being a time where it may be a topic of conversation, we may end up having that conversation. But at this point, it's not being considered because it takes a lot of time to make it happen and wouldn't be able to help us like for next year. What can be done more? What can be done to create a regular sense of community among the high school? The separation for kids is a challenge. It is hard. I think now we are just starting up into some of those pieces to build that community. Because we've really been relying on the classrooms and the interactions there, but we recognize that not all kids have some interactions there. So we're working on a couple of things to help bring kids together more often, to talk about this and to talk about other things. I would also encourage you to back to the health and wellness information on the other page to there, but this is next on our list, because we're starting to recognize it more and more here as well. And the feedback is great, and we're going to see what we can do about improving in this spot. The last question I read, what will schools look like if we do come back this year? They will look different. Even if it's not this year or next year, we're going to look different. The social distancing is a challenge for a school. If you think on a regular school year, when we come back in September, by October, most folks have a cold because we've gotten back together and shared all of our terms because we are, kind of condensed and gathered into, the schools and the classrooms, and we're sharing everything. So there's a lot of cleaning and disinfecting pieces that'll have to be added to our regimen, but we also have to be able to make it possible for students to be able to maintain that 6-foot distance. So how that looks could look at a lot of different ways. It could look like, maybe not all students return at the same time. Maybe we have a gradual start. Maybe it's a, half online, half in-person type of an education setting. There's a lot of ideas that are being thrown around right now. We aren't fully sure of what that would look like because we haven't done this before. And so we're looking to kind of rebuild the ship, if you will, when a lot of our lives are really based on that regular school schedule that's in place. So we will take any ideas. Please feel free to share them with us. We are ready, willing, and able to accept those ideas and incorporate them to our conversations. But we are also looking to communicate with folks as much as we can as soon as we hit solid facts on what's going to happen with the end of the year, and then be able to share with ideas. So this isn't the last time we will hear on this question. We will certainly have more to talk about in the future. So thank you for being here and for your efforts with folks at home and listening to me talk to it for an extended period of time. So with that, we have about 20 minutes for folks to be able to ask questions. So with that, you should have the ability to unmute yourself. So if you would like to ask a question, now would be the time. You can use the chat box too, and don't be shy. Okay, so with that, I am currently putting into the chat box. Show it to everyone. That's my email. So if anyone has any questions that they weren't able to get the technology to work, or didn't want to share with the whole group, but still want to share the thoughts or ideas, you can please email me, and I will be more than happy to take that and run with it. As the yearbook finish will be ready by the end of the year. I do not know that. I believe it was set. Ms. Adams, did you have any thoughts on that? Or did you know? We're sure? I'm not sure, and I can find that answer for you.
Hi, everybody. I had a recent conversation with Mr. North, our yearbook advisor. I believe, as far as I know, the yearbook has been submitted. As far as we know, it's on track. I will have him check in about the time frame of that in terms of where, kind of where we are with the delivery. And then once we know, hopefully, our situation of whether or not we're coming back for the end of the year, we'll be able to think about distribution. But as far as I know, we're on schedule. And we're working on a few other things with the yearbook committee, and we had just discussed that possibly Mr. North was just going to send up a little update to the students, and as well as we're thinking about some other creative ways to maybe have some town halls with our students and kind of do some Q&As with them. Some of them are great about sending me and the teachers emails, and others are a little shy about it. So as soon as we get more information, I'll let you know.
Great, Ms. Adams, thank you, and sorry for putting you on the spot so quickly. So again, if there aren't any other questions, my email is still in the chat. It's dglover@salemcsd.org. Please do not hesitate to email me with a question. We will get back to you as quickly as we can, and I will include that into our frequently asked questions that we put into place. We anticipate getting some more information here on Friday. If we do get that information from the governor on Friday, I will certainly be getting that information back out to you, as I have been kind of weekly over the weekend, and a quick phone call, email, and text message through our robocalling system. And we'll continue that process through to kind of keep you informed and up to date. So with that, again, everyone, thank you so much for stopping in. It's a great turnout for tonight. And everyone have a good evening.